Mevish, if you could please join us or join me. We will now start the Women in Tech for this month. Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much. Let me know if you guys can hear me or see me in the chat. Mevish, if you could please come up for a few seconds. Thank you, George. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's see if Mevish can make her way up here. If not, then I'm gonna have to do it solo. Okay, so I'm going to. Oh, hey,
I'm back here. Hey.
Give me about 5 minutes. I'm just gonna talk a little bit about Remo, and then
Yes.
we will
Okay,
start
cool.
with your session. Thank you. Thank you so much. So Candice, if you can turn off your microphone and camera, just your camera as well. Thank you. Sorry.
My camera and mic.
Yeah,
okay.
and your mic. Yeah, thank you. Okay, everyone, welcome to Women in Tech. We have been organizing this since last year, and it's been such an honor for us Remo to organize this, to be supportive. I was gonna have Mevish, Deadline, if you can't, try to refresh your browser and see if that works, or if not, I will share with you a link, which is the YouTube stream, and maybe you can use the YouTube stream to listen. I'm going to put that in the general chat right now. So, for our agenda today, I already mentioned this, but I'll just kind of reiterate it really quickly. We had the networking. Right now, I'm just doing a really quick welcome introduction. After that, we will have Candice give you a little teaser just now. Candice talking about ethics and AI, followed by really quick networking again, and then we will have keys to breaking the glass ceiling for women, and also best practice data science for your startup. Now, I know I'm not the right gender for organizing all this. Mevish is really actually the host for this event, but I will get her up on the next one. On the next on the networking session, and after that we will have a close, and after networking, post networking for the event. So if you guys like this event, please sign up for our next event, which is about founder well-being and wellness, also for Women in Tech. And to sign up, you just go to the top left corner, and there's the link. But you can also go to the top left corner, right here. It says our next event. It's this blue little banner. You can click on that, and it will also create a pop-up, and you can also go to that event as well. There's all of these 4 kind of banners scattered. Oh, there's only 4 of them on each corner, and you click on each of them, and that will actually go and open up a website, so you can check that out later. Yes, and then as I mentioned last time, make sure you guys connect your LinkedIn. You can connect your LinkedIn by this is your LinkedIn profile, which we pull, and you can connect with each other and also book meetings with each other. To do that, you click on your own profile picture on the top right, and after that, it'll say Update Profile here, and then here you can add your LinkedIn and also your meeting book URL. Finally, if you're really interested in Remo, we are all about creating meaningful relationships and meaningful connections and bringing back the human into online communication and our online lives. So we will have an amazing event that's coming up on the 20th of February. And it's all about how to host and organize online interactive events that can triple your business. But it's also for creators, it's also for communities. So if you're interested, please check it out. And that will be here. It's also a trial on the top right. So if you click on that, you can also sign up for the trial. Okay, so enough about you. Let's start with the main show. So I would love to invite Candice. Please turn on the microphone and the camera. And also, I would like Maddie and Raashi to also turn on your microphone and camera. Fantastic. Raashi, are you able to turn on your microphone and camera? You just turn on the buttons. It should be the gray buttons. Should be a camera and a microphone on the bottom right. Nope, there you go. All right, that's my cue to leave. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Back to you. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me well?
I can hear you.
Yes, Maddie.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, hello. How are you?
Doing well.
Just waiting a little bit because Raashi she's still loading. So I don't really want to.
Can you see me? Hi,
Yeah,
Candice.
I can see her already.
Yeah, hi.
Okay. So I'm gonna just start in the introductions and just say that my name is Candice Costa. I am. Oh, okay. Raashi, how are you?
I'm great. I believe that there is a slight
Yeah.
delay in the conversation, which is quite possible.
Okay, no worries. We're gonna have that in mind, okay?
Yeah.
So I was just really starting the introduction, saying that is really happy to be here today. And my name is Candice Costa. I am the ambassador in UK for the Women in Tech, and I am your moderator today. So I would like to introduce our two panelists that we are going to discuss ethics and artificial intelligence today. So the first one is Maddie Martin, and she's the head and growth and education for Smith.ai. And then the second person is Raashi Saxena.
It's Saxena.
Saxena.
Yeah.
And she is a consultant for Gapminder Foundation, that is a Swedish nonprofit that promotes sustainable global development and achievement of the UN Millennium Development Goals. And she also serves as the local expert for Studio Intel, a fast-growing international innovation research agency. So thank you, ladies, for joining us today. Would you like to add any sort of introduction and tell us, before we started with the questions, tell us to our audience a little bit, a very brief, short way of talking. What is artificial intelligence, please? Can start with Maddie?
Sure, absolutely. So artificial intelligence is basically the use of data and machine learning, natural language processing in order to evoke a human-like response or sort of thinking process with machines.
Do you want to add something else, Raashi?
No, I would describe the whole process as something as heroic or as famous as maybe passage of electricity. But then she's described it really well. Maddie's done a good job.
Thank you.
Good job. So we're gonna allow one thing that I wanted to tell to our audience is you have on your right a little window saying enter your questions. So while we are having our own questions for our panel, we would love to hear your questions as well. So you can just pop your questions and I will try to sort it out, and I'll find a way of having everything happening, because I think the audience is always wants to engage, and we always have amazing questions coming from the audience as well. So our first question is about Pope Francis, and when he urged Facebook executives, venture capitalists, and government regulators of technology advance, becoming an enemy of common good. So how can we avoid that? Do you want to start, Raashi?
I'm actually not too, I would say, equipped to answer that. Although
Okay.
I can probably answer more on the ethics side and the social implication side, and in terms of participatory design and all of that. But in terms of governments, no, I honestly I don't have a comment. I know about it, but then I don't have a comment. about it, as I'm still trying to grasp and learn a little more about it. So I wouldn't be the right person to start with it.
No, no worries. No worries. And you know, when you talk, I think when you talk about ethics and moral common sense, and with this, without artificial intelligence, is already a big discussion and a hot one. So when we put in this discussion, the kind of technology that we are living today, like machine learning, artificial intelligence, everything becomes something that we don't, because it's so new, we don't even know exactly where are all the extensions of the potential effect on the society. But Maddie, do you have a point of view, or can you talk a little bit about how can we avoid that?
Yes, and I think you touched on a really great word specifically,
Cool.
which is extension. So it's not either or, it's not one replacing another. We see this very often at Smith AI. Before we joined this panel, I was talking at my table about what we do at Smith AI, which is we're a receptionist service with live people who use working from home, our technology, to be very accurate in responding to calls and website chat for businesses remotely. So how do we do that? Well, yes, it's a software program, but also imagine that you have a website visitor who speaks another language. If I speak English and the website visitor speaks Spanish, I can translate in real time their Spanish chats to English for me to understand, and my English chats to Spanish for them to understand. I'm not going to learn another language overnight, or even necessarily in a year or years, to the point where I would have that level of fluency that AI provides. It also has a function to extend something that I humanly, I can't do, which is to automatically know and identify robocallers, for example. So my time as a human being is not wasted on calls that are not relevant or meaningful for a business that I'm being paid to serve.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and one of the things is, if you are thinking about a global community, but the language barrier are always going to be there, and definitely we have the artificial intelligence jumping for that. It's going to make everything quicker and more effective as well for communication.
Right.
Thank you. One of the primary concerns people have with artificial intelligence is the future of loss of jobs. So should we strive to fully develop and integrate artificial intelligence into society? It means that many people will lose their jobs. So, and quite possibly their livelihood. So I think one of the big discussions right now, especially in America, is the truck drivers. So right now, one of the big numbers of the workforce in America are truck drivers. And right now we have a time frame of around 10 years to be completely extinct. So that is one of the big discussions. So how you see the future and the possibility of these people losing their livelihood? Raashi?
I wouldn't be able to comment about the American legislation, but
No,
I would say that in India that problem has sort of been solved, because I think we can't afford, although we do see that our legislation compared to the technological innovation, and in this term AI, I would like to label AI under exponential technologies. We have had ministers who've taken a step back and have said that we would not allow this form of innovation and technology to come in at the cost of people losing their jobs, especially when it comes to self-driving cars. So it might take 20 or 25 years when it comes to India. However, we have taken a lot of steps in incorporating it. So I was just reading the report that one of the government runs. We have a strategy think tank. It's called Niti Aayog, and there has been a lot of promising aspects of how to incorporate AI in military and healthcare, and also with social innovation, although not too much with social, but more on military and healthcare. So that seems very promising. But in terms of losing jobs, the other thing is also that they have also I would say investing a lot in skill development, because these are jobs that one has to be prepared for the next 25 years. And we are a relatively young population. We're 1.3 billion people now. So there is a lot of capital that is invested in future skills training. So that's something that is very, very exciting to see in two-tier cities. And not just cosmopolitan. So that's a really good step.
What about in America? Because Maddie, you are based in America.
I am, yeah. I'm here in California.
How you see that? How is going in America? Because I think in America we see a lot of hot discussions because of the gap of new training, like training new people for the future jobs.
Yes, well, training is important. It's also identifying what the human element uniquely brings to the table. And if we look at the truck driver example, I personally don't know if I have as much faith in the government to protect jobs in the way that Raashi is describing that the Indian government would. But actually, what I think that we do very well is identify core skill sets and productivity enhancements of people, and what they bring to the table. For maybe a truck driver is the tribal knowledge you get for very efficient routes that machines don't necessarily do as well. Like if you take an Uber ride, for example, a ride-sharing ride, I have been stuck in lines waiting for parents to drop off their kids for school because Uber thinks that that's the fastest path, or Google Maps does, to my destination. They don't realize that at 7:30 in the morning, that's the time that parents drop off their kids. Now, if you ask a truck driver what's the best way to get from point A to point B, they're not going to tell you necessarily the Google Maps most efficient approach, but they will tell you the approach that most consistently gets them from point A to point B. Just as an example, things that are from experience. So what we see happening with people who are experienced is that they are working with engineers, if they're not engineers themselves, to facilitate better programming of the AI, of the machine. So if we have people who are exceptional receptionists, we know that there are things in terms of the language you use to serve a business of maybe a different size, a Walmart versus a small solo firm attorney. You're going to treat clients differently. There are legal disclaimers that may need to happen. So what ends up happening is that the people whose jobs are maybe being replaced in some way are actually being exchanged for other jobs using those skill sets in different ways. And I think there's opportunity there as long as people identify that those people are still extremely valuable, and that takes so long to build those skills that can help actually make the man and machine combination much stronger.
Yeah, I definitely believe on that as well. I think for the future, the combination between machine and human is going to find a balance where probably we are not going to have truck drivers the way we know today, or maybe receptionists, or maybe even the supermarket is going to be a completely different environment. But that doesn't mean that we do not have the human additional being part of the system as well. Okay, so so the next question is about if AIs will evolve to surpass human beings. So this for me is a very curious topic, because for me it's always there is a balance between the human and the machine, and that is never the machine is going to surpass the human side of technology. But what if they become smarter than the humans and they try to control us? Do you believe that in one point in the future, the humans will become obsolete? Maddie, we start with you, please. What's your thoughts about it?
You know, I don't have enough knowledge to say whether or not that's something that's like in the near or very, very distant future, in the future at all. But what I will say is that like there are ways that we can actually program machines and technology to, with like the Internet of Things, for example, IoT, to make us better as humans, which may be strengthening. So for example, you can program you can buy a fridge, let's say, for example, that is a smart fridge that not only will tell you these are the groceries that you're running low on, but your milk is probably spoiled and don't drink it and don't get sick. And then also we're ordering groceries for you that are healthier for you because you have high blood pressure. You're at risk with your family for heart disease, whatever the case may be. Now, those are things that if you program in and then you eat the food and you use the resources available to you, that your past self looks out for your future self, then you actually are using technology in a very empowering way, and then following that groundwork that you laid for yourself to live a healthier life. So I'm not as much concerned, and sorry, I'm not totally answering your question, but I'm not so much concerned with this sort of sci-fi future where we're controlled or eliminated by machines. I don't see that. But what I'm really interested in is actually using the machine intelligence or programming sort of humans to be better humans. And I think that that's a strengthening construct rather than a threatening one.
What about your thoughts, Raashi?
No, I would like to pick on what she mentioned with IoT. Like I said, I don't think anyone really knows what the future lies in between, but I'm actually more concerned about what the future would lie in when you are in a connected world, and especially if you have an IoT IoT based room. And I'm actually concerned about the privacy elements to it. I'm concerned about online hate speeches. I'm concerned about misinformation. These are things that are spiraling around in different contexts, different cultural contexts, and concerns of concerns like online hate speech, violence, and polarization in the digital realm, and human right violations are something, and especially for vulnerable groups and minority groups, are something that I see as a massive concern in the next 15-20 years. I feel that the legislation is still falling really behind when it comes to these cases, especially when it comes to cases of online gender-based violence. These are my concerns for the future.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's based in ethics as well. The way, for example, minorities, hate speech, videos, violence in general, that now we have been, here in UK, we have been having a lot of issues in the community about hate speech, about people having, being really mean with each other, you know, like racist prejudices and everything. So it is a huge discussion that people need to really start taking seriously, and start the government, not people. I think a lot of the organizations are doing a really great job, but the governments, they need to pick up and speed up really quickly because the technology is not waiting for them to make decisions, you know, like it's not just, for example, push the big tech companies like Facebook, Google. Just you have to do something. They really need to create legislation, isn't it? Do you agree with that, Maggie? Okay, so we're talking about that. I want to talk a little bit about the AI bias that exists. I believe that exists because the human carry the bias already when starting doing the systems, the AI systems. So what's your ideas, your thoughts on how can we eliminate it? And I'm not sure if it's possible eliminate the bias, but how can we avoid or try to make a little bit better for the future? Not the future, I think is happening right now. We need to start thinking not about the future, but right now. Maddie, do you want to start it?
Yeah, this is a tricky thing because I think that there is a survival mechanism that's built into us that at the core of bias may have many good roots, even though it doesn't necessarily always bring about good. So I would look to what the driver is of that bias, and hopefully it can facilitate more personalized and better learning where there are biases that are not productive for the future of mankind and coming together as humankind. But I really think that if we look at some bias, it can be very beneficial, where, again, as an example, on a website chat, we have a problem where sometimes there are people who want to have inappropriate chats. And that's not at all something that we engage in. We staff chats for lawyers and for startups and things like that. So what happens is sometimes people will start a conversation and they go down an inappropriate path. And the way that AI can identify a bias towards a certain line of thinking that could indicate that something bad is coming, an unsavory chat is coming, the technology may be there, but also as a human, you can sort of see and read tone in a way that has incredible nuance and intelligence built into it. And I think that we all have that sort of gut reaction or sense of dread in certain situations where you feel threatened by a scenario like that is built into us for a protective reason. And that is something that is still uniquely nuanced and human, that we were just the other day trying to determine what is the AI sort of solution for that. It's not one or the other, it really comes down to being both. So reducing bias is important in some scenarios, but not everyone.
Yeah, that is a very interesting point, like especially when we feel threatened and we have this human keep up trying to protect ourselves, isn't it? Yeah, that's interesting. What about your thoughts and your opinion about the bias, Raashi, please?
No, I feel that as human beings in general, we're all very biased given our social and cultural context. And I feel that one of the ways to combat it is to talk to the community that you're actually catering to. I feel that technology companies don't do enough research. You need to have the right people, because what happens is that when you are designing or implementing technology, you fail to talk to the people that you're directly catering to. And for example, if you have India, you will have biases. We have 29 states, we have 6 different union territories, we have around 30 plus recognized languages and 400 different dialects. So I think there was this really interesting project that I came across. It's called the Common Voices started by Mozilla, which actually records different data sets so that you can avoid biases when it comes to the different digital platforms that we're using. For example, if we are communicating with the bank via digital, and India is becoming supremely digital, and I think what we're right now we're facing is the lack of digital literacy. People, especially people in the age of my mom, I think she finds it really hard to see that everything that she could avail when it comes to financial transactions now can be done by voices or voiceovers. And if you incorporate a software that is built in the USA, it'll be hard to kind of recognize the different accents that you need to be able to carry this out. So I feel that you need and contextualize your data by having more research around and getting these people on the platform to ask them what they really want so that they can navigate through these technologies a lot easier.
Okay.
There's a massive digital divide.
Yeah, because nowadays I think, sorry.
And that's one bias, and then you also have the different racial biases. So that's one bias, but then you also have different racial biases, which I feel are still very, very problematic and should be curbed.
Yeah, because as a society, we are like old, isn't it? Like we carry on a lot of bias and prejudice that sometimes we don't really understand. And with the society changing really quickly in the past maybe 15, 20 years because of technology, in certain generations, they really are like completely lost for the lack of understanding, sometimes even use the internet or digital, for example, tools. Like my mom, she doesn't do anything online for the bank because she can't trust, she thinks someone is gonna disappear with her money and that's it, so
But that's happened. That's so common in India now. Online theft is one of the most common things in India. And luckily, banks are stepping up, and banks, and even though it's not their mistake, there are banks who do or have the refund. And it's surprising that it happens in a data set of people who are a lot older, who are not my generation, who are either my grandfather or my parents. And that's just not fair. You have to have a mechanism to be able to invest in them as well, because you can't always invest in the youth. You have to be able to help people to kind of, I don't know, help in bridging this digital divide in some way or the other. And I think when you were talking about human capital, I think the World Bank defined it really well. I think the government has to mean well for you, and I'm not sure whether they do anymore after seeing things happen. But I hope they do in the future. And I hope that I hope companies are more accountable to this. I think the companies should give a Socrates oath, like how you have it for doctors.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it is.
Yeah, because it's what
important.
I said a little bit before. The technology happened already, like digital world moved really quickly in the past 15 years. The legislation is not that. Period.
Yeah, look at what's happening with drones,
Yeah, exactly. Like every year. Yeah, every year. In the past 10 years, let's go for the window of 10 years. In the last 10 years, we have social media with Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. So every year we have this acceleration in this development of new ways of communicate, interact, and creating communities, not only, but in the tools that we have in banks, healthy, how governments having our IDs, collect our data. So all of this information, all of those systems, and it's a little bit scary if you are not in digital, but the legislation is stuck 10 years ago. So we do not legislate about, for example, drones. We do not have legislation about, for example, electronic scooters. We do not have legislations about how to interact on social media and how to behave on social media.
I mean, consumers are not protected with spam. I think it is, that to me is one of the most appalling things that is so basic. We could talk about the most advanced technology, but to me, if we haven't solved that basic problem of a huge nuisance for people, that to me, the government needs to step up there.
No, I genuinely feel that I think companies should start getting fined for spam.
I think so. I agree with that. Because it's like, for example, here we still have, like in UK, it happens a lot. Like my phone, half of my calls are sales calls. That people that I don't know, I don't give them my data, and they are using my data. So, and I cannot. Even if I ask them, can you take my name of your data? I don't want to.
They don't do it. Exactly.
A month later, they're coming back with another person calling. So even there, the government cannot protect us. For the basics, as Maddie says, we are not talking about artificial intelligence or machine learning or robots. We are talking about spam.
Yeah, but you know what? I actually think that the government can protect us, but the prioritization is not there. So it requires resources, and it requires decisions to be made, and it requires priority. And then it is absolutely possible, because the government is protecting us from all sorts of attacks and many serious malicious things all the time, I believe. But this is not given a priority, and I think it's shifted to a balance where it is such a nuisance that, like, I mean, we're all passionately talking about this, that it seems so basic and so solvable, but it hasn't been given the urgency and the attention that it deserves.
Yeah, and I think it's because people, most of the people, especially in government, they still thinking in the future. They still using that excuse that in the future, like climate change, they said, okay, we're gonna cut carbon and footprint in 25 years, but we are already having problems right now. So it's the same with technology, or maybe spamming or cybersecurity. Everything is happening now. We don't want to wait 10 years or 25 years to try to find a solution. So this is the priority, that is the urgency to do something. Then let's start doing something and start to finishing just the talks, create an action plan and actually do something to protect, not just us adults, but the whole children that are on the internet every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm a huge fan of the
Yes.
GDPR regulation.
Mm-hmm.
I think it came in at the right time. It was in talks for 30
Yeah.
or 40 years maybe, and I think it's a great step in really protecting and actually kind of fostering human dignity and rights. I think it's a great move. Although a lot of people have said that it kills innovation, and I'm not sure if India or the US would ever see something like that coming in, because companies are heavily fined, and I'm really not sure whether it would be a good step for India, but a lot of people, especially in Europe, are really happy with the changes that they've seen. And I was just checking something when it comes to selling your information. So Tinder actually just started an emergency assistant facility in their app. And what happens now is that the emergency button that they've created is with a third party vendor, and the third party vendor is sharing that with different ad tech companies. Is sharing your personal information on Tinder with ad tech companies, and even Tinder does it,
Yeah,
Facebook does it, everyone does it. It's a trade-off.
Yeah.
It's a trade-off.
At the end of the day, it's just about making money. But
yeah, I mean, it is, you have to understand that is the ethical fabric of most of the big tech companies, and there are very few that kind of set people apart. I'm not sure who does and who doesn't.
So I just wanted to bring one of the questions from our audience, and that is from Christine Lester. So she made a comment saying, so when we talk about bias, so coming back to bias, she says, people are naturally afraid of change. So it's about changing mindsets. So do you think that changing mindsets in the society, in different communities, and then we have to take into consideration generations as well, because someone in 20s react completely different of something if you have 40. So do you think changing mindsets will be one positive big step towards to eliminate or try to avoid the bias in artificial intelligence?
I think changing mindsets is a very slippery slope. I mean, do you start to really indoctrinate people? And generally it happens over generations naturally. And I think that there is sort of a social fabric and community element where if you maintain the family structure and that closeness of community that we are seeing erode in certain ways, face to face, and then also be promoted for more global connection across, wouldn't have, sort of had the ability to influence each other and their mindsets just because of the rise of social media and online communities like these, actually. But I think, again, there's a balance between, like, be careful what you play with, and you could be playing with fire to say we're going to influence mindset. You may have good intentions, but you have to be careful. And also, whose responsibility is that, and how are we giving that to them? I think that, it really ends up coming down to, there are new things, that technologies that people are gravitating towards that are really encouraging, whether it's like self-service education, apps that allow you to take a mental break during the day, things that are in your interest for health and wellness, but just making sure that we bring these conversations back to face in the real world, so that they don't operate in a vacuum or in sort of like a fantasy world, and that they're really in reality.
Yeah. Do you want to add something about Raashi, just to speed up, because I think we are all Mavis is here with us, and I think our time is gone already. Isn't it?
Almost.
Oh my goodness. So Raashi, do you want to give your thoughts about the mindset in the bias? Just to wrap up our debate now.
Mindset in biases. No, I just genuinely feel that there are some that biases or mindsets can only be changed
Hmm.
with behavior, and behavior is something that's incorporated on a daily basis because behavior can be linked to
Yeah.
habits, and if you're able to change your habits about things, then maybe you can bring about it. But I think it's still very hard. You need, and I think that there are some things that can help. Global exposure can help, like you and I being able to talk about this can help. You had exposure to different contexts, the way different
Hmm.
people are, or I would say I think the US is a great example because it is literally a country of immigrants, and it has people from different parts of the world, different cuisines, different cultures, and it's very well celebrated still, irrespective of the political climate. So I think it would depend on a case by case
Yeah.
basis.
Yeah, I agree. I think the mindset is something
Yeah.
that it's more linked to human personally than a community. And
Mm-hmm.
this is, we can change our mindset because you change your habits, you change your behavior, but you have to do as a community is much more difficult. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think we are going for the next activity is an message just to double check with you.
That's right.
It's time to go for the networking exercise, isn't it?
That's right. First of all,
Oh,
I just want to check if there were any questions and all questions were answered in a second.
yes, is what I'm gonna say. I wanted to double check if anybody wants to ask another question, and before we wrap up our panel today with Maddie and Raashi,
Okay.
because we have someone talking a little bit about the GDPR.
No,
Yeah,
someone raised the question and said that the GDPR is not implementable, but then there are a lot of companies that have been levied
yeah,
huge fines for violations. So I just wanted to share that
mhm,
list with them. And Facebook
yeah,
is one of them. I think they're right now in and trial.
yeah. I think GDPR works,
Does
but
it does
as
it
a
work in the UK?
legislation is really, really good. I think works. You know, I work. I am a marketer, and I work with digital. And one of the things that I do is managing emails from companies, B2B companies. And actually, I think in the very beginning we had a lot of confusion. I think nowadays a little bit more settled and actually works in a way that people get the power to decide, but in sometimes companies are just really do not follow the rules, but then they have fines. So like Facebook, for example. So I think we need big companies, they need small companies, medium companies, they need to have a little someone in marketing that understands the DPR to be able to follow the rules and implement everything the way it should be. And then you avoid the fines anyway.
Actually, if anyone's
So,
looking for GDPR
mm,
training, I do have a lot of friends. I'm also from the internet governance space. I do have
mhm.
friends who do GDPR training. So if there's anyone who wants to
Okay.
reach out to me,
So,
please let me
yeah,
know if there's anything.
yeah, yeah,
But this
great.
is, of
That's
course, this
good.
is uh, this is strictly with the European context, of course.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
GDPR it has to be follow each of the countries in European, and right now post Brexit, we need to figure out what's going to happen with GDPR in
So
UK as well.
will y'all incorporate it? I mean, since GDPR was
Uh-huh.
incorporated while y'all were with the EU region, will y'all incorporate it?
Sorry, say again.
No, I'm saying that GDPR was implemented at a time when you all were a part of the European Union.
Yes, yeah,
Now that
exactly.
you are officially leaving, so do y'all get to make your changes? Will y'all carry that further with you,
That's
or was it?
as far as I understood, we have to carry on until the UK by the end of the year have the whole rules and regulations a way of like the EU. So this transition is going to be for around 2 years. So until the prime minister and his team has everything set, and then we can really apart taking into consideration rules and regulations for business. they will probably find something very close to the GDPR to be implemented here in UK. But companies in UK that are trading or using data in Europe, they will keep doing the GDPR rules. They will follow the same.
Super. I think
Yeah, so I just wanted to thank you, Maddie and Raashi, to come today along. It was really, really good. And thank you very much for the invitation as well to be the moderator. I hope everybody had a lot of fun and we give some, a little bit like shine a light on the artificial intelligence and ethics. Now, Mavish, you can step up, please, and start the
super.
networking
First of all, I
activity.
want to say thank you to Candice for facilitating and Maddie and Raashi for taking me up on the offer to come on board and be a panelist on this discussion. I hope everyone really enjoyed the conversation. I've certainly learned a lot about ethics and AI. I don't have a background in ethics and AI, but it's actually quite interesting coming from outside that subject area and learning about privacy, bias, rights. So I think it's really interesting topic and it's nice to shed some light. And I really did learn a lot from this and I hope everyone else did too. We can also continue these conversations during the networking session, but before we start networking, I want to give you a quick introduction about myself, Sprinters, and tell you what the next steps are for our schedule and then break out for an exercise for our networking. So first of all, it's really amazing to see so many familiar faces here and so many new faces. So my name is Mevish Aslam, and I founded Sprinters almost 3 years ago, and we founded Sprinters to support more women into the world of entrepreneurship. Before Sprinters, I was working in law. I traveled a lot working in law. I loved law, studying law, and I thought, oh, I really want to be a lawyer. And once I got into law, I was like, oh my God, I hate this. It's just so boring. So I made that big decision, broke off from law, started off in entrepreneurship, and I haven't looked back since because every day is different and you're constantly, like for me, my experience has been like I'm constantly evolving and learning, and there's always so many opportunities for growth. So that's my background. And with Sprinters, we've done over 100 workshops, boot camps, conferences around the world in places like Berlin, Bangalore in India, Nigeria, Morocco. We did a conference over a year ago with London Business School down in London. So we've done a lot of events around the world. And in the last year, we've taken a community online. And that's where we'll be sharing the recording for the event. So I'm adding a link here in the comments. So if you want to join the community, it's free to join. And the event recording will be made available in the Sprinters community. And now a quick word about our schedule. We are a little bit behind, but it's not to worry. I'll post the schedule here in the comments so everyone has access. So for the next, I would say 20 minutes, we're going to be doing a quick networking exercise. And before that, so for the next 20 minutes, we'll be doing networking. And then Janet will be coming in to give us a talk on how to break the glass ceiling as women. Then we have a talk by Laura on best practices for data science for your startup. And that's 2 sessions I'm really looking forward to. And after Laura's session, we'll be closing the webinar mode for the event and then break off into networking again. And for networking, I've put together an exercise, and this ties in really nicely with Janet's talk. So Janet's talk is about breaking the glass ceiling for women. And myself as a woman in tech and entrepreneurship, I truly believe to actually grow as a woman in tech and being able to realize your full potential and overcome confidence issues and burnout and stress. It's about having like a group of like-minded people or like-minded cheerleaders that support you. And for me, that's my partner or it's my community in Sprinters. And I think it's really powerful to have a community that backs your support and your growth, because it can be a really lonely and tiring experience being in tech and entrepreneurship. So the exercise that I've put together today, I've added it in the comments just now, is for you to share 3 facts about yourself not your business, not your work, with at least 5 people in the networking session. So that's 3 facts about yourself, not related to your work or business, and share that with 5 people in the next 15 minutes. And once you've shared those 5 facts, then I give you permission to also connect on a business level on LinkedIn. And if you're not sure how to connect on LinkedIn, all you do is you click on your profile in the top right-hand corner and update your profile. I've added a screenshot below. So in the top right-hand corner, click update profile, and you can connect your LinkedIn profile. But that's once you've connected with 5 people. So now I'm going to break off and give you all a chance to network before we rejoin here in the webinar room for Janet's session.
Thank you so much, Candice.
Oh, thank you. So I was just trying to figure out if I was already online with everybody.